Hey everyone, it's so great to have you here today. How's everyone doing? Awesome. I'm your host Kate, and I'm thrilled to dive into a topic I'm really passionate about, which is creating meaningful connections in our lives. I was thinking about this the other day while I was stuck in an elevator with a stranger. We did the whole nice weather we're having kind of dance, and I couldn't help but wonder, is this really the best we can do? The small talk trap. We've all been there, right? At a party with a colleague or even with someone we've known for years. We just resort to, so, nice weather today or something of the sort. Don't get me wrong, small talk has its place. It's like the breadsticks before the main course. It's nice to have, but not very filling. But if we're always snacking on breadsticks, we'll be missing out on the good stuff. The science of connection. Now, I'm not just talking out of my hat here, the science backs this up. A 2021 study found that people constantly underestimate how much others enjoy deeper conversations. We're all craving them, but we're just too afraid to start. And another research shows that mutual vulnerability actually brings people closer together. Opening up is like a secret handshake, but for our souls. As Brene Brown, a research professor and author of Daring Greatly, puts it, vulnerability is the birthplace of connection and the path to the feeling of worthiness. So, who's ready to ditch the small talk and just dive into the deep end? So here's a personal story. This reminds me of an experience I had a few years ago. I was at a friend's wedding, seated next to a stranger during the reception. As we awkwardly fumbled through the usual small talk, I decided to take a chance. Instead of asking about his job, I turned to him and asked, "What is something you're really passionate about?" His eyes lit up. For the next hour, we dove into a fascinating discussion about his volunteer work with a local youth mentorship program. He shared stories of the kids he'd worked with, the challenges they'd overcome together, and even how it had changed his own perspective on life. By the end of the night, we had barely touched our fruit, and we'd formed a genuine connection. We're still friends to this day. And it all started because I dared to ask a slightly deeper question. It taught me the incredible power of moving beyond surface-level chatter. Now, let's talk about some of the strategies for creating these kinds of meaningful conversations in our own lives. Strategies for deeper conversation. First strategy is to ask open-ended questions. Instead of, "How was your day?" try, "What made you smile today?" Or, "What's been on your mind lately?" It's like giving someone a blank canvas instead of a coloring book. Follow up with questions that dig deeper, like, "What did you learn from that experience?" Or, "How did that shape your perspective?" Second strategy is practice active listening. This means really tuning in to what the other person is saying. It's not about waiting for your turn to talk. It's about understanding. Nod, maintain eye contact, and reflect back what you hear. Go something like, "It sounds like that was really meaningful for you." As Dr. John Gottman, a renowned relationship expert, says, listening is a magnetic and strange thing. It's a creative force. The friends who listen to us are the ones we move towards. When we're listened to, it creates us. It makes us unfold and expand. Third strategy is sharing authentically. Be willing to open up about your own thoughts and experiences. Vulnerability is magnetic. It invites others to do the same. Talk about moments that shaped you, lessons you've learned, or even things you're still figuring out. Dr. Nicholas Epley, a professor of behavioral science, adds, "Our research suggests that the person we talk to is no more likely to find our conversation awkward, uncomfortable, or unpleasant than we are. The bar for a pleasant conversation seems to be much lower than we imagine." Now, the fourth strategy is to explore values and beliefs. Discuss what matters most to each of you. Ask questions like, "What's something you're really passionate about?" Or, "What's a principle you live by?" These conversations reveal the core of who someone is. Fifth strategy is to embrace curiosity. Approach conversations with genuine interest. Dive into the why behind their answers. If they mention a hobby, ask what drew you to that in the first place. Sixth strategy is to create a safe space. Let the other person know it's okay to be real. Things like, "No judgment here, what's really in your mind," can help with that. The next strategy is to use the power of silence. Don't rush in to fill every pause. Sometimes the most profound moments happen in the quiet spaces between words. Next strategy is to find common ground, then go deeper. Start with shared interests or experiences, but don't linger there. Use them as a springboard to explore bigger ideas. Number 9 is to be present. You gotta put away distractions. Yes, that means your phone. Show the other person they have your full attention. And the last strategy is to end with reflection. You have to wrap up conversations by reflecting on what you've learned. Say something like, I really appreciated hearing about whatever topic you were talking about. It gave me a lot to think about. Now remember, deeper conversations aren't about perfection. They're about presence. It's not about having all the right questions or saying all the right things. It's about showing up, being real, and creating a space where meaningful conversations can grow. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, this sounds great, but... Alright, let's get real for a second. I know that some of you might be thinking, this sounds great, but what if I mess up? What if it's awkward? What if the other person thinks I'm weird? Trust me, I've been there. I've had these same thoughts racing through my mind. But here's the thing. Those fears, they're totally normal. And the good news, they're also totally surmountable. Let's break it down together, friend to friend. Fear of awkwardness. First up, let's talk about the big one, awkwardness. I feel you on this one. There's nothing quite like that moment when the conversation hits a lull, and you're just scrambling to think of something, anything to say. But here's a little secret. Awkwardness isn't the enemy. In fact, it's often the gateway to something real. Think about it. When was the last time you had a truly meaningful conversation that didn't have at least a tiny bit of awkwardness? Awkwardness is like the stretch before the workout. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's setting you up for something stronger. So the next time you feel the tension, don't panic. Lean into it, take a deep breath, and say something like, I feel like we're just scratching the surface here. Can I ask for something a little deeper? Chances are the other person will be relieved you took the lead. And hey, if it feels awkward, just own it. Laugh about it, say, well, that was awkward. I'm glad we went there. Humor is a fantastic bridge over these uncomfortable moments. Next one is lack of practice. Now let's talk about practice. I get it, starting deeper conversations can feel like trying to run a marathon when you've only ever walked around the block. But here's the thing, you don't have to go from zero to deep and meaningful conversations all at once. You can just start small. For example, next time someone asks, how are you? Instead of the usual fine things, try something like, it's been a day, but I'm really looking forward to, and insert something you're excited about. It's a tiny shift, but it opens the door for something more. Don't worry if it feels clunky at first. Think of it like learning to dance. At first, you might step on a few toes, but with time, you'll find your rhythm. The key is to keep showing up. Every conversation is a chance to practice, and every mistake is just a lesson in disguise. Okay, I know what you're thinking. I don't have time for deeper conversations. My schedule is packed. Believe me, I hear you, life is busy, and here's the thing. Deep conversations don't have to be long. In fact, some of the most meaningful exchanges I've had been just a few minutes long. It's not about the quantity of time, it's about the quality. Even in a quick chat, you can ask one thoughtful question or share one genuine thought. For example, while waiting for your coffee, you could say to the barista, what's the best part of your day so far? Or to a coworker in the elevator, what's one thing you're looking forward to this week? Those little moments add up. And who knows, that quick exchange might just turn into a longer conversation later. The key is to be intentional with the time you have. Rejection. That big, scary monster under the bed. What if the other person just doesn't want to go deeper? What if they shut you down? Let me tell you something. Rejection is just part of the process, but it's not the end of the world. Here's the truth. Not everyone is ready or willing to have a deeper conversation in every moment, and that's okay. It's not a reflection of you or your worth. It's just a mismatch of timing or comfort levels, and that's fine. But here's the flip side. More often than not, people are craving deeper connections just as much as you are. They might just be waiting for someone to take the first step. So if you get a lukewarm response, just don't take it personally. Smile, pivot back to small talk, and try again another time. And remember, every no brings you closer to a yes. It's like dating. You don't stop putting yourself out there just because one person wasn't interested. you keep going because the right connection is worth it. Finally, let's talk about self-doubt. That little voice in your head that says, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I come across as too intense? Here's the thing, that voice, it's lying to you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the right words or the perfect questions. You just have to be present. Authenticity is magnetic. When you show up as your real, imperfect self, you give others permission to do this. So the next time that voice starts whispering, tell it to take a seat. Remind yourself that you're not aiming for perfection, you're aiming for connection. And connection is messy, beautiful, and totally worth it. Look, I know this isn't easy. Stepping out of your comfort zone never is. But here's what I've learned. The things that scare us the most are the things that transform us the most. Every meaningful connection starts with a single brave step. And you've got what it takes to take that step. So the next time you find yourself hesitating, remember this, you are not alone. We're all figuring this out together, and the reward, they're so worth it. While diving into deeper conversations can be incredibly rewarding, there are some common mistakes to avoid. Here's what not to do when trying to create meaningful connections. First one is oversharing too soon. Vulnerability is key, but oversharing personal or sensitive information too early can be overwhelming. It's like jumping into the deep end before testing the water. Instead, gradually open up as trust builds. Share something meaningful, but leave room for the other person to reciprocate at their own pace. Pushing too hard. Not everyone is ready or willing to dive into deeper conversations right away. If you sense hesitation, don't force it. Pushing too hard can feel invasive and may shut down the conversation entirely. Respect boundaries and let the dialogue flow naturally. Remember, connection is a two-way street. Third one is making it all about you. Deep conversations thrive on balance. If you dominate the conversations with your own stories or opinions, it can come across as self-centered. Instead, focus on active listening and creating space for the other person to share. A good rule of thumb, aim for a 50-50 exchange of thoughts and experiences. Fourth one is ignoring social cues. Pay attention to body language, tone, and facial expressions. If someone seems uncomfortable or distracted, it's a sign to ease up or change the topic. Deep conversations require emotional awareness. Don't bulldoze through someone's discomfort in your eagerness to connect. Fifth one is overanalyzing or correcting. Avoid dissecting every word or correcting someone's perspective. Deep conversations are about understanding, not debating. If you disagree, approach it with curiosity rather than judgment. For example, instead of saying, that is wrong, try, that's an interesting perspective. What led you to that conclusion? Sixth one is neglecting small talk completely. While small talk isn't the goal, it's often the gateway to deeper conversations. Skipping it entirely can feel abrupt or awkward. Use small talk as a warm-up, then transition naturally into more meaningful topics. Think of it as the appetizer before the main course. The seventh one is expecting instant depth. Deep connections take time. Don't expect every conversation to be profound or life-changing. Some interactions will stay light, and that's okay. Patience is key. Let relationships evolve organically. The last one is forgetting to follow up. If someone shares something personal or meaningful, don't let it drop. Follow up later to show that you care. For example, if they mention a challenge they're facing, check in with them a few days later. Hey, I've been thinking about what you shared. How are you doing with that? This shows you value the connection behind the initial conversation. By avoiding these pitfalls, you'll create a safe, respectful space for deeper conversations to flourish. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's presence, empathy, and genuine connection. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. By intentionally moving beyond small talk, we can create more fulfilling relationships and a greater sense of belonging. And isn't that what we're all looking for? I challenge each of you to try one of these strategies in your next conversation. You might just be surprised at the connections you can make. To further develop your conversation skills and deepen connections, I've collected some resources for you to either read or watch. I'll put them on the screen by the end of this video. and I'll put them in the description at the end. And remember, the best way to improve is through practice. Use these resources as inspiration, but don't forget to engage in real-world conversations regularly. Now I'd love to hear from you. What is one strategy you're excited to try? Or maybe you have a story about a conversation that changed your life. Share your thoughts in the comments and let's keep the conversation going. And hey, if you enjoyed our chat today and want more tips on building meaningful connections, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Thanks for being here, friends, and remember, every conversation is a chance to connect. So let's make them count.